This journey takes us from the Firth of Forth to Kincardine Bridge, to Leith, North Berwick, past Dunbar and Berwick upon Tweed. The Isle of May at the mouth of the Firth of Forth. Over a mile long and with 200-foot-high cliffs, the island has become one of Scotland's most valuable bird sanctuaries. The first lighthouse in Scotland was sited here in 1636 when James Maxwell of Innerwick built a square tower with a brazier on top. The royal borough of Crail, one of Fife's many ancient towns. In 1310, Robert the Bruce granted Crail the right to hold a market on the Sabbath. For centuries, the Kirk tried to have it changed to a weekday, but the Kirk failed. The town of Anstruther, once herring capital of Fife, and one of the most significant ports on the Firth of Forth. It also houses an assortment of old fishing boats which have been collected by the Scottish Fisheries Museum, the Old North Car Lightship. Anstruther is the birthplace of the great preacher Thomas Chalmers and founder of the Free Church of Scotland. A few years ago, the Anstruther church dedicated to his memory was flattened. Fife's stake in the fishing industry is now concentrated here in the town of Pittenweem. The harbour dates back to 1600 and was expanded in the 18th and 19th centuries. Pittenweem has had a fish market since 1800. All that is left of Newark Castle. Newark dates back to the 15th century. And this is all that's left of a coastal tower. The lighthouse at the point of Ely Ness. The little borough of Lower Largo and the railway viaduct over the Kiel Burn. The town is best known for having produced Alexander Selkirk, the model for Daniel Defoe's famous character Robinson Crusoe. London Links, built alongside a golf course. This is Leven, a community that began mining coal centuries ago and shipping it out from the harbour at the mouth of the River Leven. The Methil Power Station on the west bank of the river, built in 1963 to burn coal from the Fife coalfield. Big oil activity on the Firth of Forth. This platform yard at Methil now belongs to the Trafalgar House Group. Some of the North Sea's biggest production platforms and deck modules have been built at this Fife yard. Methil used to be one of the biggest exporters of coal in Scotland. Now that the East Fife coalfield is no more, the coal yards near the harbour lie empty and deserted. The ruin known as Macduff's Castle near the town of East Weems. The castle was burnt to the ground during the Wars of Independence, rebuilt later in the 14th century and then abandoned in the 18th century. Whether or not the legendary 11th century Earl of Fife ever lived there is anybody's guess. But just under the castle there are caves whose walls are covered with graffiti that predate Macduff. Most of the scribblings are Pictish, and some of them go back to the Bronze Age. One of the disused coal mines with which this part of Fife is now littered. Men have been dragging coal out of the ground around here since the 12th century. This particular pit is within a mile of the coal town of Weems. It was built by the Earl of Weems in the 1890s to house the men who extracted the coal that was the basis of his fortune. And much of that fortune was spent on this huge and splendid palace, Weems Castle and Gardens. The castle was begun in the 14th century, was extended in the 16th, and again at the end of the 17th century. The castle sits just above the village of West Weems, a curious place which is half restored, half derelict. These houses occupy a fine site on the seafront, but they're shuttered up and falling into disrepair, perhaps because of subsidence.